Hello, Franklin Wepner here. Right now I want to make a video about Michael Chekhov. This will be the third theory video I'm making in a series here. The series is called CHEKHOV, GESTALT, KABBALAH. The first two videos were about Michael Chekhov and Gestalt therapy, showing connections, parallels. And this one's going to be about Michael Chekhov and Kabbalah. There are all kinds of flavors of Kabbalah in the world, depending on which sect you're looking at. The particular flavor I'll be looking at today is it's a combination. A lot I'll be relating to a book called The Universal Meaning of the Kabbalah by Schaya. It was published some way back around 1971. Looks at Kabbalah from a ZOHAR point of view. I'll also be relating to Nachman of Breslav's collected essays. Those will be the two main sources. I'll have a little bit to say about Ashlag Kabbalah, Yehuda Ashlag. And as far as Michael Chekhov goes, I'm basing myself mostly on the 5-hour lecture series that he made in 1955, shortly before he died. Okay. It's such a broad subject, it's hard to know where to begin. It's endless, really. So I think I'll just arbitrarily pick out the idea that he has in his lecture about three different, what he says is three different kinds of acting. We want to keep relating the theory to the acting process here, so I don't get lost in a lot of Kabbalistic mumbo jumbo. I want to keep tying it back to practical things that relate to acting. So he starts off with the idea that there are three kinds of acting. He calls one-dimensional acting, two-dimensional acting, three-dimensional acting. One-dimensional acting is what he calls straight or flat or primitive acting, where an actor basically plays himself and gives us a whole bunch of self-portraits, so basically playing himself. And this is the kind of acting that Michael Chekhov finds very unrewarding to watch, and he thinks when people do that, they somehow shrink their possibilities down, and they become basically very uninteresting. So he's more interested in what he calls a multi-layered kind of approach to acting. And that's where it gets into the Kabbalah, because when he starts talking about layers, and he does that in the kind of Platonic, neo-Platonic context that he likes to think in terms of, then he's talking about what Kabbalists call different levels of worlds. So the one-dimensional acting he's talking about there is world number one, the lowest world, the world of everyday reality. In Hebrew it's called Olam Ha-Asiyah. Olam is world, Ha, the, Asiyah, doing, making. The world of everyday making and doing. Okay. The second kind of acting, two-dimensional acting, moves up to the level of what Chekhov calls in this lecture series. He calls it, just quickly mentions the idea of character acting. That's where I assume, he doesn't go into it very deeply there, but I assume what he's talking about there is an actor that's working with all kinds of opposites, but not going up to the third level where the opposites come together into the three-dimensional acting, where the performer is somehow sitting on top of the opposites and in what he calls with his I consciousness. I, the letter I, not E-Y-E, but the letter I, is being here and now present in the situation, freely synthesizing all the different opposites into a higher integration. And Michael CHEKHOV in the lecture calls that the level of spirit. The spirit is the high level, the highest level for an actor. The second level, what he calls character acting, two-dimensional acting, that's the level of what CHEKHOV calls soul. And he says in one place that the soul is able to put together all these elements, but not able to integrate them. That's the function of the spirit. So when he talks like that, he's also, for any person that has a little bit of philosophical background, he's talking in what we call dialectical philosophical terminology, dialectics, thesis, antithesis, synthesis. And so we have first one-dimensional acting is just a thesis. Two-dimensional acting, the antithesis, the two opposites fighting each other. And three-dimensional acting is the synthesis, where the higher integration encompasses the two opposites, and the performer is somehow what they say, a performer on top of his material. Now, so far, everything I've told you that he says, I agree with. But now we get to a point where I disagree with Michael CHEKHOV, and this is I'll go into this little by little, but it's a rather sophisticated point. The question is, on the level of the synthesis, is the synthesis that's going on here simply putting together a whole bunch of things, which is what he says in his lecture. The spirit is a synthesizer, and he talks a lot about love, and love is like the great solvent or something here that allows the performer to somehow end up feeling very friendly towards everybody, and especially the people he's working with and the audience. And somehow bring it all together in a wonderful sense of love, and ties everything together, and everything is very fine, hunky-dory. Well, that's one idea of a synthesis. But philosophically speaking, what's missing there is the idea of what I think is a more profound idea that you find in Nachman and Breslav. Although Nachman Breslav certainly doesn't want to talk about philosophy. He's not thinking of himself as a philosopher, that's for sure. But the idea of the final product being not just a synthesis, but identity. Let's put it this way: if the first level is the thesis is identity, being one. Something is one with itself. This is identical. I'm identical to me. I'm just me. That's identity. Difference is when you get the next level, the two opposites splitting up. That's difference. And then the third level is not just identity again. It's identity in difference. Identity in difference. The many in the one, and the one in the many. The many don't disappear into the one. As they say in French, vive la différence. So, especially avant-garde type people who don't like to think of themselves as being lost in the big system, the big oneness, tend to gravitate towards philosophies like existentialism and nachman and breslav as a voice for this kind of alienated kind of mentality. You can think of also, so it also goes under the heading of pietism, faith versus reason. In the Christian, the Catholic tradition, the Dominicans that have a pope, and everything fits under the oneness of the Catholic Church. Then you have the Dominicans, each one by himself, talking to God in the woods, and the same thing in Judaism. You have the Chabadniks with one big Rebbe and as a Jewish pope, and everything fits into the big system. The Rebbe says it, and everybody does it. But then you have breslav, nachman of breslav, and everybody's again off in the woods talking to God by himself. And vive la différence. So the emphasis is much more on not having one big system. So that's where I disagree with Michael Chekhov. There's an enormous amount that I am learning, have learned and I'm learning, and will continue to learn from Michael Chekhov's approach. I'm working on it now with performers, and I hope that you'll be able to see some of these videos pretty soon. But on the other hand, what's missing from Michael Chekhov's system is exactly what I think I could put into that system. And that makes this particular video rather controversial if you're a loyal follower of Michael Chekhov. Because I'm saying that what Michael Chekhov needs is the Gestalt therapy work that I have been doing for 38 years, where the emphasis on, well, it could be on centering oneness if you're doing Gestalt therapy that way and you want to emphasize people integrating themselves and fitting into the system and rational compromise and bringing the two sides of yourself together and all that. But another way to do Gestalt therapy, or actually it's good to go back and forth when you're doing Gestalt therapy, depending on who the person is, what they need at that particular moment, is to emphasize the opposites. To help a person get to the place where they realize they're very much split, two opposites, and then help them find the void. Then the void is the key element here that's missing in Michael Chekhov's work, as far as I've seen it anyway. In Gestalt therapy, they call it the rhythm of contact and withdrawal. You get to the two sides of the two extremes in your life. I love him, I hate him. You know, I want to get married, I don't want to get married. And you're torn, you don't know what to do. So then the Gestalt therapy says, okay, you first work on the two sides, have them talk to each other, the two empty chairs, and you go back and forth until you get to an impasse. And then the Gestalt therapist says, okay, close your eyes, go inside, and see an image. And so you find an image of, it could be anything, you know. The main thing is that what the image you see is not is usually, and it's best if it's not directly connected to the two extremes you just left behind, because that way you get out of the box of rational thinking and you get into the area of free imagination. Okay. So the difference is here, and this is what's missing from Michael Chekhov's approach. He takes us up to the idea of a synthesis as being the spirit, that the third level that the actor needs to get to. But what's missing in his approach is the in-depth work on the opposites and the getting to the void. In his system, if you think of the synthesis as this third level, then you need a fourth level to get to go into the void and get to the new idea that comes out of it, that's totally unrelated, that somehow brings the two opposites together. You need a fourth level, but he doesn't talk about a fourth level. He includes it all on the third level. So the way he does it, he helps you, he's very good at helping you get from your first level, which is your everyday self, into what he calls the level of sensations, all these experiences that you're going to use as the basis of your acting, which Gestalt therapy they call gestalts, units of experience, awareness, whatever they are, ideas, feeling experiences, body experiences, but he lumps them together under the heading of sensations. And these bundles of experience are the second level. So you're working off of your centers, your archetypes. He calls them archetypes also. You're working off your archetypes. You call them gestalts, call them essences, which is so far right on the right track. And the trouble is when he gets to the third level of the spirit as a synthesizer, well, we just get bigger lumps. There's no qualitative change. We go from smaller to medium-sized archetypes or sensations. And finally, the performer on top is the monster, the huge sensation, the huge archetype that ties it all together synthetically. Of course, that gives you a certain amount of freedom if you're a performer, but still, what's missing is the much greater degree of freedom that you would have if you were not tied to just being a synthesizer. Okay. Now, talking about the same thing in the Kabbalistic jargon, Jewish Kabbalistic jargon, especially the jargon that you find in Leo Shaya's book about the Kabbalah, the Zohar. The system talks about four worlds. So again, I mentioned there's Asiya, there's which is doing and making. There's Yetzirah, forming. And what are we forming? We're forming the sensations, the bundles of experiences, awareness experiences. And the third level is bigger bundles, according to Michael CHEKHOV. But the world of Bria is, the word Bria, the word tells you what it is, creation. There's new ideas being created. But if the synthesis is just a collection, bigger collection of the ideas that are already there, so that it's not at the level of Bria, creation. And finally, Atzilut, the highest level, Etzel is the root there, means near to, so in a sense near to God or very close to the oneness again, that it ties everything together. Okay, so Michael CHEKHOV is leading us up to the second level, at a very high level, the second level, and Gestalt therapy, by going through the void and getting new ideas that come out of the void, we jump up to the level of Bria, creation, new ideas coming out of the void. In Hebrew they say yesh mi'ayin. Yesh is something, existence, or what is. Mi'ayin, ayin is nothingness, mean nothing, from nothing. Something from nothing. And that's one of the basic principles of Judaism. Okay, that's, I hope I made that clear so far. It's not easy. It took me quite a while to get a handle on it. Let's come at it from a different angle here. I'll keep coming at it from different angles. Here's another angle. Think of it this way. Now, in the frame of reference here are 4 different levels. Okay, everyday self, the level of formation, the second level, Hebrew Yetzirah, forming these bundles of experience and calling them archetypes or sensations. And the third level is new ideas popping out of the void. That's Bria, creation. And the fourth level is the big oneness that everything comes together again. All right. So think of it this way. Level number 1 and level number 4 are basically big systems. Our everyday world, we don't usually think of it as a system, but a lot of people can recognize the fact that we're kind of basically stuck in, or I think they put it these days, they say, somebody's in the box or out of the box. The person in the box is stuck in a matrix, a very ordinary person. You don't expect surprises from a person that's stuck in a box. Person has habits and functions on the level of what they call in Gestalt therapy confluence, sameness. Con is with, fluer it's to flow. Flowing with your habits, your rituals. The perfect, totally confluent person would be a psychotic or an autistic child that has a little world of machines or whatever it is, and lives in that world and won't let anything threaten that sameness. He's got a system. Okay? The same thing on the top, by the way. The way I want to look at it now, for a person that says, oh, I'm finding bliss in the Lord and the wonderful angels and everything, has a person that's totally committed to a certain religious system, or a person committed to any big system, like an organization man, totally committed to the organization. The highest authority is the oneness of this organization, or this God, or this religion, or whatever it is. So that's also a system. So a person like that thinks in terms of my everyday life is a system, and my highest framework of ideas is also a system. A person is thinking in terms of what we call, what philosophers might call deductive logic. Deductive logic, and the opposite of that is inductive logic, of course. Now, let's think of the roots of those words. Deduction, ducer, the Latin root is to lead. D is to lead away from. So deductive logic is where you start with one big idea, and you break it down into all its corollaries, all its ramifications, and that becomes a big system. You live in the matrix, a big system. For example, if you're living in your everyday life and habits like that, so this is who I am, and that's it, and everything depends on how everything fits into your idea of who you are, and your ego, and your habits, and your routine. And the same thing for your big world of organization, or God, or religion, or whatever it is. Well, if the Rebbe says it, it must be true, and that's it. And everything depends on what it says in the, you get a book that tells you what to think on Thursday, what to think on the 4th week of the year, and what to think on the 3rd year of the year, and what color flowers to send on the 8th week of the year. And it's all written down, and you follow the recipe, and that makes you perfect. So this is a system, deductive world. All right? Abstract in terms of ideas, it's the opposite of what they call concrete thinking. Concrete thinking is based on awareness. So if you're a person that's very much in the box in your abstract world, so maybe you need a few hours a week, you go to swimming, or you go play golf, or you get drunk and get high, or have a wild orgy or something or other, whatever it is that gets you out of your box, and somehow or other you find a balance. But there's no center there, What's missing is this other kind of thinking. And it's not just you, because sometimes whole periods of history minimize that kind of thinking. And for example, in the 14th century, somebody named Francis Bacon came along and pointed out that most people in those days were living too much in the side of this kind of deductive world. And so he made a big deal about inductive logic. And inductive logic works like this. I'm aware of this, I'm aware of that, I'm aware of 1,000 different things, one after the other. Each one is a moment of living concrete reality. I see a white light here, I see a red clock there, I see a yellow stand there, I see a white wall there, and somehow they come together into the ocean, into the gestalt, the combination of awareness experiences, which I call a room. And then I deal with my body, and I'm feeling a certain amount of weight here and tension there, and on my tuchus I'm feeling something hard. And I get, I guess here I am sitting in a chair. Okay, this is me sitting in a chair. Another gestalt, body, inner zone awareness. And I let my imagination go. I imagine what it's like outside, even though I'm inside. I see a blue sky. Now imagining that there's a dirigible out there that just exploded right now, like the one that did last week on the news. And so I saw that imagination. I have a picture of a dirigible exploding out there and people falling down. Okay. So I put those awareness moments together and made a gestalt out of that, on 3 different ways. So there are 3 kinds of gestalts, 3 kinds of awarenesses, that realms of reality that this awareness process is coming together. Inductive logic works, and that is the outer zone, environment, body awareness, and the imagination. 3 kinds of reality according to Gestalt therapy. And I put them all together, and I get the big gestalt of Franklin Wepner, me sitting here right now talking to you. Okay, I put all that together. That's a moment of my life, here and now existence. So that's inductive logic. Douceur leads in from the many moments to the one big gestalt where I get to the conclusion. Here it is, Franklin Whitman sitting here talking to you, and that's my overall awareness of this moment, where I put together those three channels, three levels of reality, three kinds of tracks of awareness. All right, how does this fit in with our full world structure here? Remember we said the first world and the fourth world are abstract systems. So the place that these Neo-Platonic or Kabbalistic thinkers reserve for the other concrete thinking, of awareness thinking, is the second and third worlds. And the second world is where you start off with awareness. You're forming these awareness moments, these gestalts, one after the other, and we form them at the rate of 1 million every second or something like that, because that's how our brain works. And then the fourth one is the hot one. That's the one where Michael CHEKHOV and a lot of other people get lost. I think in that respect it's what separates, for example, the Ashlag Kabbalah from the breslav Kabbalah. Or the Chabad Kabbalah and the Ashlag Kabbalah are both very much system synthesis people. With a pope on the top with a big system, put it all together, and but the trouble is, level 3, which should be creation, new ideas from the void, ends up being simply bigger gestalts, bigger collections of awareness. Okay, it's better than not having the spirit integrating things, but still, the spirit has potential to be more than just a big synthesizer. I just said synthesizer, right? The spirit is not just a supercomputer. It's a different kind of trip altogether. All right? It involves going out of the box. Jack in the box, you know? We break out of the box. If we're willing to risk it, of course. So are you a jack in a box or are you in a box? That's up to you to decide. Okay, so I got to the end of the second way of approaching Michael CHEKHOV and the 4 levels of reality here. What's the next step here? Let's see. I did about half my time for this tape. How about I focus on a key sentence here, and I would say this one sentence here is probably the heart of what in Michael CHEKHOV's lecture, where he deals with what we're talking about here. Here's what he says. He's talking about our everyday intellect, and then we have our lofty and noble and lofty intellect. He says, it must take an active part in our professional work. It has a full right to do so, but for that it must have some definite quality. Okay, now here's the crucial thing. What is this quality of the true intellect? There are thoughts and ideas which are absolutely deprived of any feelings. The real intellect, that really great ideas and thoughts, must be born and can be born within our heart. Now there's a key word. The word heart is absolutely central to Kabbalah, and it's absolutely central to Michael CHEKHOV. We should find within ourselves our thinking heart, and that's the $1 million world. What is a thinking heart? And it is not so difficult after all. If we would only pay a little more attention to our everyday life, we will find moments when we are enthusiastic. These moments can be very humble and hidden, but still you can find them. And what is enthusiasm? It's a combination of our feelings and of our ideas. We can also find traces of heroism, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so the important thing is a combination of feelings and ideas. The heart. Now, in what sense, how do we combine ideas and feelings? Now, he's not obviously not talking about the superficial sense, which would happen on level number 1, where you say, oh boy, I'm feeling hungry, I think I'll have a hamburger. Kosher hamburger, of course. Anyway, that's not the kind of heart we're talking about here. Those are not the kind of feelings. I mean, certainly those feelings are real. On the level of a one-dimensional man, they are certainly real. But for an actor to talk about his thinking heart is not going to help him to get to the kind of lofty, idealistic state that we're talking about here, that Michael Chekhov calls characterization. By the way, that key sentence at the beginning of his lecture is that an actor has this need to transform himself, let's see, I'll read it exactly. Every true artist, especially talented actors, bears within himself, deeply rooted and often unconscious, a desire for transformation. Speaking in our theatrical language, a desire for characterization. Characterization. Now remember we said that the second level, two-dimensional person, that is all-time opposites without the synthesis, is also a character actor. But he's talking about characterization on a higher level of the integration, the synthesis, okay? So this thinking heart somehow or other has to be the synthesis, and it has to deal with the bundles of experience, these sensations that we're talking about. So here is an interesting, let's look at I want to look at Nachman of Breslav for a moment, and collected essays number 49, section number 1, page number 7 in the English Hebrew translation. And he says, well, first of all, we need to know from the dictionary what is the word sur, but I'll read it first what he says here. I have placed wisdom in the heart of the wise of heart. That's a quote from some source, a religious source. And they made all I commanded you. Okay, I'll read that again. I have placed wisdom in the heart of the wise of heart, and they made all I commanded you. And the main creation or formation, from the word yitzirah, of the qualities, gestalt, which are the gestalts or the sensations, took place with wisdom. So wisdom is important here. Wisdom in the heart. Now that's the thinking heart. It is found, discovered, contacted. It is found that the heart is the embroiderer, the shaper of my heart, the rock of my heart. Okay, so there are a bunch of words that are all related. Now the Hebrew, it's a little jumbled up here, but in the Hebrew it's very clear, because the Hebrew root is sur, which is rock, or the same two letters, tzamech and resh, tzarar, to bundle. That's the key thing here is tzarar, to bundle. There's the saying in Hebrew, tzur libi, the rock of my heart. The word, and it's translated in usually contemporary English as tzur, as rock. But if you go to a person like Nachman of Breslav is obviously very aware of every possible meaning of a word, and so the meaning tzarar, to bundle, is absolutely crucial here. Another form of the verb is nitzrar, bundled. Tzur libi then becomes not just the rock of our heart, but the bundling of something together that makes my heart like a rock, the foundation of reality for me. And what is it that we bundle together to make a foundation for the reality of our life? Our awareness moments. Okay? If we bundle together everything into one big system, then that's not what religious people like Nachman of Breslav are looking for. They're looking for concrete reality, and that comes from being grounded in a million awareness moments every second, the messianic now, you would call it, And that's the rock of our heart. That's the foundation of reality. So this bonding together, that's what happens. If we go back to the four levels, that's the second level. And what is it? Amazingly enough, we find the world is called Olam HaYetzirah. The same letters, except there's a yud in front of there's a tzamech and there's a resh again. Yetzirah, from the same tz and r. So you see, the Hebrew gives you a way to find the letters of the words and the words and the words that you don't have in English. So Yetzirah is the bundling. The second level is the level of bundling that gives us a foundation for the concrete reality of our life. The world of formation is the world of bundling of awareness moments into bigger and bigger gestalts. And so okay. So that's fine for Michael Chekhov, and it takes him where he needs to go, because, like I said, for him the third level of new ideas is just simply more bundling, a bigger rock of the heart, a bigger bundle, a bigger synthesis. The heart is a bigger synthesizer, but what's missing again is the other side. Now, he alludes to it here. He's in the same page. He says here, it is this heart, this enthusiasm, is a combination of our burning feelings and of our ideas. Our burning feelings and our ideas. Sensations, the word sense is a double meaning here. Sense is something we feel, and sense is an idea. So the word sensation has the two built in together, just like the idea of a gestalt, an awareness moment, is a sensory experience and an idea at the same time. I'm aware of a camera, I see it, and I call it a camera. So it has an idea to it. There's awareness there and an idea. He says here, the fiery flame coming from our heart. Now, he's pointing at something there which is a big deal in the other kind of thinking, but he doesn't give enough emphasis in his system. Where does this burning flame come from in the heart? The bundling is not enough. The flame comes from the void, the new ideas coming out of the void. And that's the idea of going to the extremes and finding the void, and then finding the new idea that comes out of that rhythm of contact and withdrawal and gestalt therapy, which is what you need to really do the deeper preparation for a character role. And he doesn't. That's about the only reference I see in his 5 hours there. I don't see another reference to this kind of idea of fiery ideas coming out of the void. There's a lot of talk about having an actor not be monotonous by having all kinds of ways of finding contrast in your character, in your voice, in your body, and whatever. But that's just setting. You're still on the level of the bundling. What they call these bundles, or another word for them is essences or qualities. You're still polarizing qualities, this for quality versus that quality, but he's not emphasizing the fact that each of these qualities could and should be explored to its extreme possibilities. To get you to that, to give you the jumping point, to jump ahead, to leap into the third level of Riyah, world of creation, where you start creating new ideas, start creating you out of the void. He mentions it here, the fiery flame coming from our heart. So this heart here, the word heart, has so many different meanings. one meaning it has is what is this Kabbalistic idea of the creation as being that God opens up, the Hebrew word is tzimtzum. God contracts his oneness, opens up an empty space, and then the new idea comes into the empty space and creates a new world. And that fiery new idea comes out, is what he's talking about here. And in that sense, this tzimtzum process is the heart, because it's the emotional connection we find. You can represent that in terms of alchemy, you know, that the water, the earth, the air, and the fire. So that if the air is the empty space, and the fire is the new spark that comes into the void. Now he deals with this sort of thing throughout his process. Let's go back to the very beginning. So again, I want to say I'm going to show you how he does do the process here we're talking about. But like I said, he's not doing it enough with really strong bundles, strong gestalts, really totally opposite to get to that strong emotional holistic experience that it would take to get to the third level, so that the characterization that you're working towards, it has this powerhouse in it. It's not just a big synthesizer. A loving synthesizer, a wise loving synthesizer. What he calls a wise loving scientist inside us is basically a wise loving computer. And it's not enough for me. Maybe it's enough for you, but it's not enough for me. But watch, here's a very simple example of how this process works, and I'll describe it how he describes it, and then I'll show you how the Kabbalistic way of talking about the same thing is. He tells you at the beginning, let's take the simplest thing possible you can imagine. Imagine the body of the character that you're working on in your script. And right now I see the body of my character as about a big balloon. If I just do it right now. Okay, so what did I do? A ray of light, or what they call, Kabbalists call chokhmah, wisdom. I projected it into the space, and the space gave me back some kind of what's his name? Graham Dixon calls it giving and receiving. I gave out a ray, and I got back an image of a big balloon, a balloon type personality. And Kabbalistically speaking, we say that's Chokhmah and Bina, or Adam and Eve. A moment of reality. I get a contact boundary between the two of them, and I see an image. Okay, so there I created there was nothingness, and now there's a new bundle there, a new idea. Now, if I switch over and the next step when you see the imaginary body is to go over and play the body. So if I go over there, and can't do much here, but let's say I'm playing my big balloon body here, and I'm looking at the world from this point of view. Boy, I carry a lot of weight around here. I certainly do. I'm big. I'm loaded. So I can identify with that. Here I am spouting wisdom to the whole world here on a camera. And I got my studio here where everything is just reflecting how wonderful I am, you know. So I got this blown up image of myself, and I puffed up, and my voice sounds puffed up, and I'm so terrific, you know. Okay. So what did I do? I created a world, and like CHEKHOV says, I got in contact with this image, and I filled my room with love here, in other words, awareness, and all these opposites in my room here are all interpenetrating each other, and that's the moment of harmony. In the Kabbalah they call it tiferet. They call it in Kabbalah fusion without confusion. All of the different essences of reality are all interpenetrating here. Again, but what's missing is this extreme fragmentation that would lead me into the next level up. So that's an example of a big bundle of awareness moments coming together right there in his work. Okay, whenever you project something out there, you know, tells you to radiate out into the space, you know. Okay, so then the whole space becomes I'm chokhmah, the wisdom, and the ether, the avir, the air that I'm projecting myself into is the space. Or if I mold the space, you know, there's also a contact boundary. The space is the avir, the ether, and I'm chokhmah, generating millions and millions of rays here all the time. That's the process of what goes on in Yetzirah, the second level. Doesn't go on an everyday level. We don't usually think about ourselves as projecting rays all over the place. But on the second level, when we start functioning in a level of inductive thinking, it's natural that fits right in. But again, where in the system here is the place to jump up to get to the level of total confusion, turmoil, being lost enough to be willing to give up my ego and to discover a new idea in the void. He talks about, the actor needs to be giving, totally giving, but again, to just give, to cancel yourself out without having the foundation of solidly established gestalts, bundles that are totally opposite, that leave you to get you to be totally lost. Without being lost, you can't get found. I don't see where he gets this idea that a person is just going to give everything out of a feeling of love for the audience without having enough grounding. And there are certain people that are like that. I'm not one of them, unfortunately. I'm not the world's biggest. I don't see just wonderful all over the world. I see all kinds of stuff. And I want a system of thinking and working as a performer that's going to give me the options to deal with not just hunky-dory feelings. Okay, so that's another way I approach this idea. The difference between the third level being synthesis and identity. No, wait. The highest level needs to be identity and difference, not just identity again, all over again. The difference needs to stay there. The opposites need to be very present and somehow encompassed in the higher integration, at least the way I like to work and the way I like to think. That gives me as a performer the most range of exploring the depths of despair and the heights of ecstasy, and that all that comes like he says, it comes out of as fiery ideas out of the void. But you first need to establish a void. And how are you going to get a void if everything is one big collection of sensations? One sensation in mildly contrasting form. I don't see the extremes there. Okay. How much time I got left on this video? I got about 10 minutes. What can I lob off here in 10 minutes? I'm going to push my stop button for a moment and just think. Okay, what about the PG, the psychological gesture? That's certainly central. That's the trademark of Michael Chekhov way back when that was about the only thing people knew about him. Now, the impression you get from reading listening to his lectures, is that there is a PG for each. In fact, he tells you when he talks about the shortcut to prepare his system, go to find each section, find the PG for that section, find the imaginary body, find that psychological gesture. By the way, if you don't know what a psychological gesture is, it's another synthesis. It's a synthesis, and that's what it's exactly what it needs to be. It is one big idea, one big bundle. It's the biggest bundle maybe for your character. You put it all together. If you have one PG for the whole play, you have your psychological gesture where it's some kind of a physical form. Maybe it's withdrawing into yourself, or maybe it's expanding. Maybe it's floating around the room, maybe it's picking your nose, whatever it is that turns you on, that is the center of your somehow existential focus there. And you can imagine the power coming out of that point and all that business. Okay, but so far, what I see here is he's describing that as another computer, another synthesizer, putting it all together. What I'm saying is that if you do a work on this, a lot of work on the extremes, then ideally you would have for any one particular scene or for the whole play, you would have maybe 10, 20, and very opposite kinds of qualities, of sensations or PGs. You know, for example, let's say the character has to have a cup of tea, you know. There's one PG might say that the cup of peace symbolizes inner peace and harmony. Another PG might be telling you that the PG symbolizes torment and person on a bed ready to explode. So the point is, if you have this treasure house of PGs waiting for you, these sensations, gestalts, whatever you want to call them, and you have a whole bunch of them that are very opposite colors, qualities, then you are free here and now to play with them and to let them play you. And it's not all going to be dissolved in one big synthetic idea that kind of levels out the extremes. Okay? So I'm saying do a lot of Gestalt work and find as many different sides of your personality as you can without damaging your mental health, I suppose. And like he says, make a list, write them all down, and then each of these moments, you know, is a focus for you. So rather than looking for the emotion memory and look for that feeling, rather you know that this particular essence, this particular PG, is going to give you a cluster of associations that will most likely lead you to the kind of feeling you want. I can do it right now. For example, there's a particular piece of music that was very central to me in my life at a particular age. And if I right away think of that music right now, it should be a secret. I'm not going to tell you what it is. But if I'm drinking my cup of tea with that music, it's going to be a very mellow drink. But now if I take a different kind of music in my head, okay, different kind of music, different kind of tea. So the point is good to have a lot of different kinds of powerful, pure ideas, Platonic ideas available and waiting for you on level 3, Bria, level of creation there in your storehouse. The storehouse is not, in other words, not on level 2 where you've got a whole bunch of opposites waiting there, but rather the storehouse is on the level of, the deeper level of level 3, where you are free to much more free, to not just synthesize these things, but is to, in fact, even find new ones at the here and now. You're free enough so that you could find a totally new PG at that moment, because you're used to working with extremes and pulling ideas out of the void, or letting ideas pull you out of the void, or whatever it is. Okay, so that's what I want to say about PGs. I think, if I remember correctly, that even Stanislavski said the same thing. When you play a character, always find the opposite side of that character. Okay, so basically, I'm sure Michael Chekhov would agree with a statement like that. But I'm not saying that Michael Chekhov is a schlub. No, this man is obviously a very high level and a level of genius as far as integrating philosophical ideas and theories and putting them into practice as one of the great actors of our time. I'm just talking about the overall shape of his system, with the emphasis on too much on the big system, Big Brother looking after us, and us being Big Brother looking after the audience, and all this kind of stuff. Vive la différence. that the side that emphasizes the lone individual groping in the void is I'm not saying that's the answer either. The answer is somehow the proper balance between these things. Think of the idea of the hybrid, you know, where the one and the many are two different opposites that somehow or other are dealing with the same reality. And on the highest level of, you know, the ideas in the Kabbalah and any philosophical system, these things are properly balanced. So the danger here in the Michael CHEKHOV system here of kind of a gym, community gymnastics center, everybody one big clubhouse enjoying lots of love, and the individual potentially could get lost in a kind of a mob mentality. I remember my experience dealing with the physical theater world in the 60s, was it the 50s? 60s, when I was in 70s, when I was in New York City, going around to these various avant-garde theater workshops. And I remember I was feeling threatened. And there's a kind of a mob here. And I don't have faith in a mob. I have more faith in the proper balance, the middle way, where with the proper respect for the individual, and at the same time enough love to go around so that there's a proper balance. Okay? So I'm saying Michael CHEKHOV is great. I'm going to rip off a lot of his techniques and his thinking here. At the same time, I'm also going to balance it with a good dose of Gestalt and nachman and breslav to get the balance I need for my creative work. And if you watch some of the videos that I'll be doing now with performers, if I'm lucky enough to get performers that continue to work, then I hope I'll be able to illustrate what I'm talking about. Okay? All right, maybe that's a good place to stop right now. So, thank you.